Okay, next up on the bench is a G05 802. Should have a label right there. Focused, yep. Okay. So the problem that we're having is that the bottom half of the screen gets squunched up every once in a while, and sometimes it stays that way, sometimes it comes back to full height, but sometimes not. So I have here my transformer here that gives me the voltages I need for the monitor, which is about 26 volts AC, which goes into the Vector Labs adapter. Then I have the Vector Labs vector generator, and you'll need this cable with the wires in this order because there's multiple adapters that come with it. The other one is for the 6100, and then what it looks like on this side is it's connected that way, and this is the XY monitor adapter. Okay, and then that goes to the monitor itself. So this supplies the video and the power and everything it needs to drive the monitor. Okay, so then what we do is we're going to turn the power on to the transformer. And I believe that should be, yep. I don't know if you can see the net glow. A little bit of net glow there. And then we're going to power this. Okay, then you get a green light here, and it defaults to the plus pattern. Let's see if we can. Okay, bench is a little crowded, and then I can adjust which pattern is displayed. And then you can see that so far it's so good, so we want X size to be a little smaller on that. Let's see if I can get a better angle at this. Probably not that easily. No, not without sitting this right in front. Let's shorten this down a little bit and see if we can get a better picture of that there. Alright, that's about as good as we're going to get. Let's go back to that pattern there. We'll go with that pattern. And then since this is a black and white, oh, you see it squished up. And then it might come back, maybe not. But the blue adjusts on, yep, it came back. The blue adjust on this is the brightness of the vectors on the Vector Labs tester. Okay. So at first it was like, oh, maybe there's a bad connection, but you can sit here, you can tap the monitor, tap the things, and if it was a loose connection, you should see at least a little flicker or something. So the next theory I have is that it is one of the transistors that's kind of flaky. It's kind of like on the edge of dying, not dying. You know, if we turn the brightness up a little bit, I mean, this monitor is beautiful, other than this problem. So now we're just going to let it run for a bit, and we're going to see what happens. See if it collapses up again, or if it comes back. Would have been nice to have a stress test type thing on here, like the TPG has, where it draws all sorts of different stuff. That way it doesn't burn anything into the screen while we're testing. So we're going to turn that down a little bit. We'll turn that down a little more, just to keep it from doing too much damage. Although you'd have to run it for quite a while for that to happen, I'm sure. But, let's see. Oh, there we go. It collapsed again. But it's not a full collapse either, which is interesting. Yeah, cold solder joint to me would... I can wiggle the wires a little bit. Nothing. To me, if it was a loose connection or something like that, just wiggling the wires and such would cause it to fix itself or to fail. But I'm not seeing either one of those things. So let's switch patterns. Yeah, see, it's not a full collapse. But, well, I guess it could be center. Alright, let's power cycle the monitor and give it a second to... See, now we're back to full size again. So to me that says there's something possibly thermal that is on the verge of failing. Personally, I'd rather have it just completely fail the part, not the monitor, just the part, so that it'd be easier to figure out which one it is. At this point, I think I'm going to have to dig into the schematics and look at that particular section. So it is, and it's the bottom transistor. So the vector monitor is divided up into 4 different sections. You have a positive X, a negative X, positive Y, and negative Y. And it all starts from the center of the screen and draws out one direction, either to the left, to the right, up, or down. So it's the Y one in the down, which I would have to figure out whether that's a positive Y or a negative Y. Not sure what it considers positive and which way it considers negative. Positive might be up, positive might be down. Don't know. Okay, so if I power cycle the monitor again, okay, so I did it quick, so let's leave it off for a second. Half the battle of fixing these things, monitors, PCBs and stuff, is to figure out what the actual problem is. So what we're trying to figure out here is whether it's thermal or not by letting it cool down for a second and then turning it back on. Okay, so we're back. None of the transistors feel... Ooh, well, that one is in the Y, and it feels a little warmer than the rest. Interesting. Okay. So I will show you which one I'm talking about here. You have the 4 transistors. You have these 2 here, which are X and Y, or X, sorry. And then these 2 over here, which are the Y. Somebody was nice enough to draw that. But this one here feels a wee bit warmer than the rest. Yeah, these I can put my hand on, no problem. This one, yeah, that one gets a little warm. So I think I'm going to try replacing that one and see what we get. Okay, so I'm going to shut this down and swap it out. Okay, before I do that, I actually decided I've got a can of freeze spray. Hopefully that shows up on the screen. And when it fails, I'm going to spray one of those transistors. So we got to wait for it to fail. You can actually see it kind of in there in the background. Now those look newish, definitely compared to the other ones. So hopefully whoever replaced those didn't replace them with fakes. 3792 and a 3716. Now it's a game of waiting. Actually, well, I'm recording with my phone, otherwise I'd hook up the FLIR and see what the FLIR has to say. But maybe I'll do that once this fails, and then I can just grab a picture of it and I can throw that picture into the video. So far, so good. Again, I wish this thing had like an auto rotate or something, so that we don't burn the same image in. Yeah, that one looks good. It's a little hard to see. I need to get a better mirror for working on Mars. I'm using one of those mirrors from a Williams game. It works, but could use a little bit bigger. I have to go hit some thrift stores and see if there's something in there, or just order something off Amazon. It's taking a wee bit longer to fail this time, but I did hit it with some freeze spray earlier to test it. So maybe it will take a little longer to fail this time. Just cycle through these. I'll have to see if Vector Labs has an update to this. Maybe there's newer software or something that that has a different mode or something for doing animations or what have you. I think Arcade Jason also has a vector generator. I'll have to look at that, see what his is like. Well, now it doesn't want to fail. That could make things a little more interesting. Let's Let's see if they're getting any warmer. That one's back to hot. And that one's warm, but it's not like that one is. I also marked on here plus and minus. So the question is plus down or plus up? If you go by their drawing, I don't know if we can see you can see the drawings here. It's got a plus here and a minus here, so maybe it's positive x is this way and negative x is that way. Positive y is that way, negative y is that way. That might be what that means. I'll have to do some research on that one. Well, so far we're not failing again. That's not good. It usually failed faster than this last time, but this is why it's not failing now. Yeah, just messing with the brightness to see if it drives it a little harder to that one. You can hear, well, you probably can't hear it over my PC, but you can hear the chatter. Interesting. Unfortunately, my Asteroids has the 801 in it, which means it has a different set of connectors. So I can't just throw this in the Asteroids cabinet and see if it works. I don't want to leave this on here too long on a static screen. See, now this one has a lot higher pitch on the monitor, so it's probably driving it a little bit harder. Okay, let's go to a box. So that's my position. Oop, there we go. We just failed. Yay! Does it show up on the screen? You can see that it's failed. All right. So we're going to try this top one first. Nothing. Oh, wait, nope, it came back. Maybe that one's not getting hot enough. And when it does get, well, no, when it gets cold it works, but that's weird. Okay. The bottom one is still hot, yeah? Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, that bottom one's still toasty. This one here is nice and cool to the touch now. I don't know if these are... Yeah, that one's pretty toasty. That one's toasty. I'm thinking it might be this one right here. Might be this one here that's failing. I'll put it back over here so you can see the screen better. This is the exciting part, waiting. You can probably fast forward through this part. If that's the case, and if that's the one that fails, if this top one failed, then whoever wrote this, their diagram may or may not be right. That would mean that the negative would be going down, and the positive would go up. We're just waiting for it to fail again. Curious as to how long it takes to fail. Yeah, because once I cooled that bottle cap down, it's been working. So all signs point to that one currently. All right, let's switch patterns again here. Something that's not gonna burn a lot of stuff in here. Oh, there we go. We failed again. All right, I'm gonna cool the bottom one now, just to make sure that that's not a just to make sure that it stays broken. And it is. So now we're going to cool the top one. Oh, there we go. It fixed. Yep. I think it's that top one. Okay, and I think it's marginal. It's a thermal issue. So now I'll have to power everything down. Gonna discharge the monitor. Yeah, just for safety's sake. And then I will replace this one bottle cap and we'll see what happens. Alright, I'm gonna power this off. Unplug the vector generator. And stop the video. For those of you who have not discharged a vector monitor, they recommend using a high voltage probe or something with a resistor in line. One of those power resistors, a big one. But I have a high voltage probe, so I'm just going to hook this up to the frame somehow. Let me set this down here so I can hook it up, and then I'll show it. Okay, so the high voltage probe is in my meter. My meter is on DC. It's connected to that. And then we're going to slide that under here. And then we're going to watch as the voltage drops. And you can see the voltage is dropping. That's like 200 volts there. Now we're probably don't need to do this to change the transistor on the side, but Why take a chance? 20,000 volts is not your friend. Okay. Okay, that's still on there. Ugh, I gotta go wash my hands. This is what happens when you work on monitors. Okay, hands are washed and they're dry. I believe these are 1/4 inch. Tell you here real quick. Yep. Now the nice thing is these are socketed on the other side. So you take the 2 screws out of that, and then back in there is the socket. So once you pull that out, then the socket's probably going to fall. So we'll see. Well, maybe not. Ta-da, and it comes out. And that is a... Let's see if that shows up on the screen here. 2N30 and 2N3792. Okay, so now I need to get a replacement. Yeah, that's still on there. Where are my 2N39? 2N39. Yeah. Hopefully mine aren't fake, right? Okay, so it should only go on one way. If you have it backwards, the holes won't line up. Yeah. Well, I didn't want that to happen, but that happened. And you cannot trust the writing. You never know which may have been printed upside down. That's one. And that's two. It might be a little hard to see on this, but these pins are slightly further to this side than they are to this side. Not by a whole lot. They're somewhat offset. So don't force it if it's not going on the way you think it should be going on. Double check and see if you got it backwards. Okay. Put that back down like that. Plug our power back in. And these are keyed, so you should not be able to put these in backwards. Okay, click there. Where's my power? There's my power for that. Go ahead and turn that on. And this is what they call a smoke test. We're back. And let's switch to the other pattern. That looks like okay, we're not squished at all. If we're lucky, this is an easy fix. I'm going to turn that down, the brightness down on that. Less burn in. And we're going to let it run for a bit and see if it fails. If it fails, that's going to suck, because that means we didn't solve the problem. Probably took, well, when it was in the game, it happened probably within 5 to 10 minutes. So on the bench, it's pretty similar. Might have happened a little bit faster in the cabinet because the cabinet was trapping all the heat, and on the bench, it's got a little bit better cooling. So it might take but if that's it, I'll be happy. This will be one of the easier fixes. Switch patterns a couple times. I don't want to do a literal burn-in with the vectors in one spot. But we'll let it run for 15 minutes. Change patterns every once in a while, and then if it doesn't fail, then I'll be happy. We'll go put it back in the game, and we'll see how long it lasts in the game. But I'm pretty positive that that is the issue that we had. At least so far, so good. What's actually amazing about this monitor too is there's no hole burned into the center. On the majority of asteroids I've seen, there's always a tiny little hole in the center of the screen from where there was a board problem or a monitor problem, and so the beam was constantly on dead center of the screen and would literally burn a hole through the phosphor. This monitor does not have that, which is nice. So far, so good. Well, I'm not going to put the old one back in to take a thermal, so no FLIR for us. Sorry. Found it the old-fashioned way with a can of free spray. Interesting. Just playing with the XY generator. If you hold the button down, it's brighter, and then you let go of it, it gets darker. Bright, dark. Bright, dark. That one's actually pretty cool. Way cooler than the others, which is weird. Well, if this hits the 15-minute mark, then I'm going to call it good. So that's 3 more minutes. You can fast forward to the end to find the conclusion, or you can sit here in anticipation. Looks like it's flickering on my phone, but it's not flickering in real life, so probably just a refresh thing. Less than a minute left. Oh. Being on the monitor didn't change it. It's a good thing. Alright, I think at this point I'm going to call it good. Until I put it in the game and see how it plays in the game. Thanks for watching.